You were 23 years old the first time you walked this stretch of desert at night for money. Not cartel money, not yet. You were walking it because your cousin Ernesto has a bum knee, and the foreman at the Nogales distribution warehouse pays by the shift, and Ernesto's wife just had twins, and you have nothing better to do on a Wednesday. You carry inventory manifests on a clipboard. You wear a reflective vest. You count pallets of tomatoes and sign your name on paper and drive back across the line before sunrise with 60 American dollars and the particular satisfaction of having done something simple and honest and physical in the dark. That is who you are for almost 2 years. The warehouse job turns permanent. You learn the rhythms of the border crossing like you once learned the rhythms of your mother's kitchen. What time the lines thin, which inspectors wave you through, which ones open every box. You learn this not because you were calculating anything, but because pattern recognition is just what the human mind does when it lives inside a repeating system. You log entries, you file permits. You become, without intending to, a person who understands exactly how goods move from one country into another. And you were good at your job, in the uncomplicated way that young men are good at jobs that ask only for reliability and a decent memory. The night that changes everything does not announce itself. It is a Tuesday. You are finishing a double shift, sitting in the break room with bad coffee and a phone that needs charging, when a man named Castillo walks in. You know who he is the way you know the names of weather systems, by reputation, by the way other people move around him. He is not threatening, he's almost pleasant. He sits across from you and tells you that your manager has been supplementing his income for 3 years, that this is not something you have to worry about personally, that it has nothing to do with your work, which has always been excellent. He says the word excellent like a man reading from a formal letter. Then he says that there is a conversation he would like to have, at your convenience, about an opportunity that would compensate you significantly better than $60 shifts. You say no. You say it clearly and immediately, and you mean it, and he nods as though he expected exactly this answer and leaves the break room without incident. You finish your coffee. You drive home. You think, that is finished. It is not finished. 3 weeks later, your younger brother Mateo is picked up near Altar with 40,000 pesos worth of someone else's problem in the bed of his truck. He did not know what he was carrying, or so he says, and you believe him, because Mateo is 20 years old and catastrophically stupid in the specific way of young men who trust people they should not trust. The debt is not 40,000 pesos. The debt, as explained to you by a man you will never see again in a parking structure in Hermosillo, is considerably more than that, and it is yours now, because blood is collateral and always has been. You call Castillo. He picks up on the second ring. This is how it begins. They do not start you on anything consequential. The first months are orientation by another name. You ride along, you observe, you answer questions about your expertise without fully understanding why the questions are being asked. You realize slowly that what they want from you is not muscle or loyalty tests or any of the things you feared. What they want is your mind, specifically the part of your mind that spent 2 years unconsciously mapping a system. The shift timings, the inspector rotations, the administrative rhythms of a legal crossing. This is intelligence, and you have been accumulating it for free. Your first real assignment is simple. You are given a window and a phone. You are told to watch and report. You do this, and nothing bad happens. And Mateo comes home, thinner and frightened but alive, and you tell yourself the equation is settled. You tell yourself this is over. But debts to men like Castillo do not settle like ordinary debts. They compound. Every favor creates leverage, and every success makes you more valuable than you were before. And value in this world means you are never quite allowed to leave. This is not explained to you in those terms. It is simply the structure of the thing, the way gravity is a structure. Not malicious, not personal, simply operative. By your second year, you understand your actual function. You are a scout, not in the romantic sense. You are not tracking through arroyos with a rifle, listening to coyotes. You are an analyst. You sit with information, patrol schedules obtained through channels you do not examine too closely, sensor placement data that arrives in your phone through encrypted applications, reports from drivers and lookouts, and the loose network of frightened, calculating people who inhabit the margins of this enterprise. You synthesize it. You identify windows. A window is a gap in coverage, temporal, spatial, or procedural, through which a shipment can pass without interdiction. Finding windows is your skill. You are very good at it. The moral weight of this does not arrive all at once. It does not arrive as a single moment of clarity, the way it does in films. It arrives incrementally, the way water enters a structure, through small gaps, almost imperceptibly, until one day you notice that something fundamental has changed about the interior. The first time you understand that a shipment you greenlit contained people, not product, you are sitting in a rental car outside a gas station in a town you will not name, and you feel something detach inside your chest. Not guilt exactly. Not yet. Something more like vertigo. The sensation of realizing you have been walking a path you thought you were simply observing, and you were farther along it than you knew. You do not quit. You tell yourself you will quit. This becomes a recurring structure in your interior life, the plan to exit, the reason the plan cannot be executed right now, the promise to revisit the plan when conditions change. Conditions are always changing, and never in the direction that makes exit easier. Mateo is safe. Then Mateo has a daughter, and she is soft and oblivious and wholly unaware of the specific architecture of danger her existence now inhabits, and this creates a new category of impossibility around leaving. The craft itself becomes its own entanglement. There's a part of you, the part that learned to love the honest satisfaction of counting tomatoes in a warehouse, that finds a genuine and troubling competence in this work. You develop methodologies. You build a mental model of the enforcement apparatus that is almost academic in its precision, not the romantic outlaw's contempt for the law, but the systems thinker's respect for a complex opponent. You understand that the agents on the other side are not stupid. Many of them are working from the same kind of information, trying to predict the same windows from the opposite direction. You are playing against a shifting, adaptive adversary, and you are good at it, and that competence creates its own gravity. There are years where nothing catastrophic happens. There are years where you allow yourself a version of normalcy, a rented apartment, meals at a specific restaurant on Thursday nights, a woman named Fabiola who asks you once what you do and accepts the vague answer you give her with a wariness that suggests she already knows not to push further. You are not happy exactly, but you are not in immediate danger either. And in this world, the absence of immediate danger is close enough to peace that you stop examining the distinction. The catastrophe, when it arrives, is not yours directly. A driver named Quellar, nervous and young and poorly briefed, makes a decision without authorization, takes a secondary route during a window that was not cleared because of patrol activity you had flagged as elevated. The shipment is interdicted. Quellar cooperates immediately, which is both understandable and catastrophic, and within 72 hours, 2 members of the network are dead, and 3 more are gone in ways that suggest federal processing. The heat, as it is called, redistributes. Routes that existed for years collapse overnight. Months of mapping become worthless. Castillo calls you. He does not sound angry. He sounds like a man solving an accounting problem. He wants a new framework within 60 days. He tells you the resources you will have. He does not ask if you are willing. The conversation ends. You sit for a long time in a room you won't describe, thinking about a concept you first encountered in a management seminar at the warehouse, the sunk cost fallacy. The idea that past investment should not determine future decisions, that rational actors cut losses and redirect. You understand the concept completely, and you understand with equal completeness that it describes a freedom you have not possessed for several years. The new framework takes 43 days. You rebuild it from first principles, starting with the assumption that every data point older than 6 weeks is compromised and working forward. You identify 4 viable windows. You build redundancy into each layer. You document nothing that could be read by anyone who should not read it. When you present it to Castillo, he listens without expression and then nods once, which is, in his register, something close to gratitude. The first shipment through the new framework passes without incident, then 3 more, then 12. The statistics feel like evidence of something, though you are no longer entirely sure what. Competence, perhaps, or luck wearing competence as a mask, or the particular mercy extended to people who are, for the moment, more useful to powerful men alive and working than they would be in any alternative condition. You are 31 years old now. You have been doing this for 8 years, which means you have been doing this long enough that it has become part of your identity in the way that jobs always do when they take up enough of your attention and skill. You do not think of yourself as a criminal. This is not self-deception exactly. It is more that the word is too blunt an instrument to describe the texture of what you actually are. You are a man inside a system, making decisions inside constraints you did not fully choose, bearing consequences that extend beyond your own body and into the lives of people you love. You think sometimes about the inspectors at the crossing, the ones who wave the manifest lines through at 6 in the morning, the ones who open every box, the ones who have developed their own pattern recognition over years of watching goods move across a line. You wonder if any of them think about you. Probably not. You are a variable in their system as they are a variable in yours, and neither of you will ever sit across a table and discuss what you have learned about each other, though the accumulation of knowledge moves in both directions, and you are aware that time favors neither side definitively. The radio pings at 2 a.m. There's a truck on the move, and a window that is open for the next 90 minutes based on the latest rotation data, and the driver needs your confirmation before he commits to the route, because the route has a fork, and both options carry risk, and neither option carries certainty. You look at the data, you run the calculation, you type 2 characters, and hit send.